Hello everyone, this is Randy Malden with Supply Leaders Academy, and today I just wanted to cover a few things with you about how to build a procurement team. Now, this is one of the most important things we can do with today's global supply chain because there's just so many things that we have to pay attention to, that we have to make sure we have the right people in the right places so that we can make decisions in a timely manner to keep our organization profitable, What I'd like to do is introduce myself. First of all, my name is Randy Malden, and you can see this as Where's Maldo, and this particular picture is of me in the middle of the Mediterranean or off the coast of Africa. I don't quite remember when. But what it shows us is that what I had done is I had created a global supply chain team to support military operations all over the world. At this particular time, we were in 3 different countries, planning operations and doing training operations that helped support our Marines that we were focused in on. My background is in the Marine Corps, and I'll go over that in a few minutes. But this took a lot of time. We had 6 months of training before the event. We had continuous training throughout the deployment, and it was always making sure we had the right people in the right places based on what they knew how to do, what their skill sets were, what their maturity and what authority that they had. And this particular picture is a great example of what it means when you have a global supply chain in place, how you can be in one place and your team can be in many different places. So and they're going to execute. They're going to do the right things. They're going to make sure things happen in the right way, and they're going to take care of you, and they're going to take care of the mission to make sure things happen in the right way. A little bit about me is I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. You can see a picture here of me, and this is me when I enlisted. I enlisted in 1989. Me and my brother in Okinawa together, enjoying the Marine Corps ball. This is a picture of me with General Colin Powell. It was a real quick picture operation. It said, "Hey, it said stand here and smile." And I smiled and said, "Okay, here you go," and snap, and away we went. After that, I was in what they call the MECEP program, which is when the Marine Corps sent me to school to earn a college degree. This is where I met my wife. And then I became commissioned an officer, and this is where you see me here. Here I was in Croatia. Here I'm on a deployment in Africa or in the Mediterranean, and this is actually a picture of our family right before we go off on my last deployment into the Mediterranean off the coast of Africa. And if some of those of you who know me, this is my family all together, my wife Alicia, my 2 boys, and my little girl. Now, what does all this mean is that the future of supply chain management is changing. It's an art and a science. It's scientific in the way that we can analyze data, we can identify things that we need to focus in on to ensure we have profits in our supply chain, or that we're spending our money wisely, getting the best value. But there's also an art to it. It requires finesse, it requires relationships, it requires the things it takes to manage your supply chain at home. It's not just numbers, it's about people as well. And you want to make sure you have the right people to help you do that. It involves automated systems now. There's more than just Excel spreadsheets and Access databases now. There's SAP, Oracle, other supply chain management systems that help you automate things and make things better for you. There's always relationships that you have to have. Relationships with your vendors, relationship with your peers in operations, marketing, sales, relationships with your executives. These are all part of the supply chain today. Bottom line, it's more than just transactions. It's more than just processing paperwork, processing purchase orders. We have to be involved in our supply chain and know what the value is our organization needs and what it takes to get there. And we're not talking, 2 months down the road. We're talking 6 months, 12 months, 3 years down the road in that type of planning. And the only way to get to that level of performance is to have the right team in place. If you'd like a copy of these slides and a recording of this presentation, just visit or text the word TEAM, T-E-A-M, into your phone to the number 58885 or 58885, and with that you will get access to these slides and a few other bonuses that I have in store for you when you opt in to receive the slides. Now, what is a supply chain team? Some of us are a one-person shop. it's just us. We're working for our company, and it's just us and our team of vendors. I wanted to make this point specifically to let you know that even though you may be a one-person shop, you have a team of vendors that you're managing to make sure they provide the value you need for your company to be profitable. Some of us have a procurement team of several people where not only you are serving as the director or a manager or one of the senior buyers in the organization, but you have a team to help you. It could be a team of 2 up to a team of 25, 40, 50, hundreds, depending upon how large your organization is and where you're located throughout the world. Your vendors are always part of your team. We always need to recognize that our vendors are part of our team and not just someone we're doing business with. We need to work with them, make sure they understand our strategic direction, where we're headed, and what they need to do to align with that direction. Because it's much better to have a vendor that's in place for a long time than to constantly have new vendors that you have to train in your processes and who really don't understand your strategic vision. That doesn't mean say you don't want new vendors, but you want to develop your vendors as best as you can. There's one client we work with. They have a vendor base of 300 vendors, and those vendors have been with that company for over 10 years. That's the ideal supply chain. Both teams, both sides, the vendor and the buyer, are on the same strategic focus and understand what they need to do to both stay in business for the long term. Our executives, even though we may be the procurement arm, we work for the CEO, the CFO, COO, the president, the owner, the business owner, the executives, and they're focused on generating revenue for the company. What we're focused on is generating profits for the company, and we have to work with our executives to make sure they understand what we need to help them be successful. So we want to make sure that our team of executives is on board with the strategic vision of the procurement team, of the supply chain team, and that they're giving us the resources we need to help make sure the organization is successful. And we have sales and marketing. Our sales folks are out there generating revenue for our company. Our marketing folks are out there looking for new customers and trying to determine other ways to generate revenue for our company. And what we're focused on in the supply chain is generating profits. So by us working together with sales and marketing, we can make sure that the resources are in place to support the sales that they're making and achieve the marketing objectives that they're trying to achieve. And production, when we have to produce what has been sold, be it hard manufactured goods, raw materials, or services, we have to produce. So we have to work with the production team to make sure we understand their needs so that they can focus on the client and the customer and not worry about, well, where's the widget we're supposed to order 3 weeks ago? It's not here. Where is it? So you want to make sure you have your production team. So that's what your supply chain team is made up of. Your supply management team is made up of more than just you and your immediate procurement team, but of all these other factors as well. But how do you build a team? Building a team takes time. If any of us have played sports in the past, be it football, baseball, lacrosse, soccer, volleyball, we've always had to start with building the team. And if you can remember, when you built the team, you had to come together, and you went through 5 phases of team development. And it started with forming. You can imagine that being the first day the team came together. Everybody was kind of fumbling around. Nobody knew exactly what to do because you weren't sure what to do. You had a team together. You knew there were people that wanted to play, but you didn't really know who was going to do what. So you got to bring the team together, start to form the team, and put everyone together so they know what their role is and how they're going to work with the team. And as you come together, you're going to go through the storming phase. The storming phase is when you're positioning for your role in the team. Who's going to be the leader? Who's going to be the follower? What is your teammate going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to go through that storming phase. Then you have the norming phase, where you start to understand what your role is, what your teammates' roles are, and you start to function as a team. And then you start performing to achieve the highest objectives you can for your team, and you're performing well, you're operating well, and then sooner or later the team breaks up and you end up adjourning and going your separate ways. Now, I would offer to you that of these 5 phases, you will not skip any. You will go through all phases, as well as when you add a team member to your team, you will go through all phases, and they will experience the same 5 phases. What we want to do as leaders is manage these phases to make sure that they're productive at every phase. So when you're bringing your team together in the forming phase, you're making sure people are introduced. They know what their capabilities are, making sure that people will start to be comfortable with each other, maybe do some team building exercises. And that's when you go through, when you're doing your team building exercises, that's where people are starting to storm, and you're starting to realize who the leaders are and who the followers are, who has the technical skills, who has the sales skills. That's when you're going through the storming phase and everyone's positioning. And when you manage this in a productive way, you find that the storming phase is not necessarily a negative experience, but it's a very positive experience for your team. And then everyone starts to work together, and that's when you have routines, you have SOPs, standard operating procedures. People know what to expect. They understand the strategic vision of the organization, not only the larger organization, but the organization of procurement and supply management. They know where people are headed, and they're working together for the good of the whole, not the good of the individual. And you're performing well. Everyone is thinking for each other, and they're making things happen without actually being told what to do. And it's unfortunate, but we all know that teams break up in the end once the project is achieved or goals achieved, or people just move on to other projects. And when that adjourning phase happens, or when you start to break up, we want to manage that well, make sure it's a positive experience. So we say goodbye to folks in a positive way. We wish them well, and we try to capture lessons learned so that we can capitalize on those lessons and benefit from those lessons for the long term. As we start to bring our personalities together for our team, we want to understand how different personalities work together. Now, the personality profile I like to use is the DISC profile. We have dominance, influencing, steadiness, and compliance, and every one of us have a part of this in us, but it tends to be that one of these areas is more dominant than the other. So when we understand what our dominant personality is, and we understand what the dominant personality is of our teammates, we can start to work together in an effective way because we're able to communicate more effectively. For example, when you have someone who's a dominant, they want to get straight to the point, make a decision, and move on. Or someone who is more influence organized or interactive organized, they need to be talked to, they need information, they need to be liked, they need to know that you care about them. How do you know what your personality profile is? Well, when you, again, opt in by texting TEAM to 58885, you will have access to a DISC profile that you can use for yourself and for your team, so you can learn more about what your team's communication styles are. And when you get this report, it will tell you not only what your dominant behavior is, but it tells you how to work better with others and how to work better with others of different personalities so that you can, again, be more effective as a team leader. And then what type of experience do you want on your team? What type of experience do you need on your team? Well, of course you need procurement experience, people that understand procurement, the contracting phase, but then you also want people that may have sales experience. The company I've worked with, they've started hiring salespeople into their procurement team. And if you think about it, it's not a huge leap from sales to procurement, because sales folks are always negotiating, so that's one of the key things that we do as procurement folks. We are negotiators, and we want to understand our customers and our clients, and that's what salespeople do. They understand their customers and their clients, and they're always asking questions. And they understand vendors, and they understand the larger impact of being part of the procurement team. They have a larger vision. So what we need to teach our sales folks who are joining our sales team is the procurement technical skills, which you can accomplish when you send them through the CPSM certification boot camp. That gives them the fundamentals of procurement that they can use to be successful, and it gives them also a larger, broader understanding of supply chain as a whole. We want to add marketing folks. They have the analytical skills in their personalities, in their experience. They know how to analyze markets, not only the markets of your industry, but the markets of your vendors. And when they understand that, that becomes a powerful tool in your supply team, because now you're able to act strategically. When you can forecast the needs of your company based on the market 3 to 5 years down the road. If you're able to forecast what the market's going to do when your vendors are getting ready to negotiate with you, whether or not they're going to be in a buyer's market or a seller's market, you're able to negotiate better. So definitely, by having marketing folks on your team, it's a good piece to add to your team, because it gives you a more analytical capability on your team. Again, teaching them the technical skills of procurement is not such a huge leap when you send them through CPSM certification bootcamp. It gives them the skills and the tools that they need. And those that have a finance background, we had someone come through our boot camp in February, and he has a finance background as a strong financial person, served as a financial consultant for a company for a long time, and he's now chief of procurement for a county in California. And from his own words, he found that supply chain procurement is a key skill to that county staying in the black. By his team always working to save money, he understands the value that a good procurement team focused on strategic sourcing brings to the table. Again, it's not a huge leap to bring somebody with a financial background to give them the procurement skills they need when you're sending them through the appropriate training. And what skills do you need? Of course, you need skills in negotiations, but ISM did a survey in 2005 of companies that generated $1 billion or more in annual revenue. And this is a list of the skills that they identified that people need in supply chain management in order for them to be strategic in their sourcing. So you can look at this list of skills, see where your team fits in those skills, and where somebody may not be dominant in one skill, they may have dominance in other areas. So this is an area to look at and to determine where you need to be in regards to building your team. Of course, negotiations is always a key factor for your procurement team. They're always negotiating contracts for you. They're always trying to find the best value. And then you have influence and persuasion skills, building relationships. A partner of mine, Thomas Fulmer, who you may know if you follow us a lot, he is an expert in influence and persuasion, and he knows how to use the DISC profile to immediately identify the personality of the person he's talking to and start to communicate to them in a way that's effective for them. He doesn't try to force his personality onto them. He tries to adopt his communication style to their personality so he can have more effective communication. So having influence and persuasion skills, another essential skill that we need in order to build relationships with our vendors, with our executives, with our peers in sales and marketing. This is all part of the influence and persuasion relationship building skill set we need in supply chain today. And as you start to build your supply team, you want to send them through training, and there are several resources for training. Of course, we have our Supply Leaders Academy, which is an online courses in not only procurement but management skills, leadership skills, technical skills. This is where you'll find all this in Supply Leaders Academy. Plus, we do a 5-day procurement training course that gives people the fundamentals in supply chain. It's a 5-day course that talks about the fundamentals, and we talk about case studies. We use people in the room to illustrate the different concepts. It's a very effective course for those that need a broader understanding of supply chain. We have our CPSM certification boot camp that gives people who have a background in procurement the skills they need to be certified to show other people they know what they're doing in the world of procurement. By having this certification, it immediately tells people that they are a world-class procurement professional in supply chain management, and they understand not only the technical pieces of procurement but also the strategic pieces of procurement, which is very important when we're developing our strategic sourcing team. We also offer a CPSD training, which is Certified Professional Supplier Diversity, for those who may be managing a diversity program or have a small business program. This provides them with the skills they need to manage those programs. It augments the CPSM, and if someone who may not be ready for the CPSM, they can qualify for the CPSD certification. Once you have your team together, the next step is to develop a planning framework to build your team and have them focused on the right things. By going through a planning process, we have a 5-step planning process that we take people through when they are looking to develop a strategic sourcing capability, and it's very step-by-step, very methodical, so that you make sure that you cover every piece that you need to cover and consider every factor you need to consider when you go into the strategic sourcing mode. When you go from tactical procurement to strategic sourcing, you start to adopt a planning process that's effective. Once you have a planning process, you want to be consistent in that practice. You want to constantly practice the planning process again and again. That makes it easier to execute. It makes it more proficient for your team to execute, and they become better at planning. And when you develop planning as a consistent process on your team, you're going to be more effective as a team. And when you have a planning process in place, you want to make sure you have a diverse planning team. What does that mean? That means not only is your procurement team involved in the planning, but also your sales, marketing, operations, executives. They're all part of this planning process because they see the world differently than you do. So make sure you add your sales, marketing, operations people to your planning process, so not only do you understand what their needs are and what factors are considered that they're considering when they're doing their planning, but you understand what their needs are, and you also start to develop champions. So when you start to publish your plans and execute your plans, you already have champions throughout your organization to make sure that when your ideas hit the street and people say, oh, why are we doing that, you already have a team in place to help you be successful and to support that planning right off the bat. And no plan is good without execution. And as supply leaders, we tend to wear many different hats, and we start to go through the execution phase. We want to make sure we have the right pieces in place. And the first step is to, when we get done with our strategic planning, is we want to map out the different processes. Want to map out our supply chain, map out our procurement process, map out our planning process, map out all the different processes we're involved with, and then we want to find points of measure in those processes. And as we start to measure those processes, we start to collect data so that we can analyze where we can reduce costs, where we can find more value, where we can start to add a strategic capability in our supply chain. And once we're doing this on a regular basis, we start to manage risk instead of responding and reacting to poor risk management on a constant basis. By having a strategic plan with the right team, you're in a place of management, not in reaction or putting out fires all the time. So this is a great place to be. So what are your next steps? Your next steps are to assess where you are right now. What is your team like? What capabilities are you missing? And start to fill those holes with the people you need. And as you start to develop that team, you want to make sure that they're trained. You can work with us. When you work with us, we make sure your team is trained in the fundamentals of supply chain management, procurement, planning, leadership. Either they go through our 5-day course or a 3-day course. Either way, we give them the skill sets. Even beyond training, they still get access to Supply Leaders Academy Online, which continues to build their skill set more and more and more. So training is a key piece to that. By constantly training your folks, you know they're always going to be proficient. And then you need to practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice makes perfect? No, perfect. Practice makes perfect. So by doing the right training, assessing where you are, doing the right training to focus on those gaps that you need filled, and starting to practice those skills that you need to practice, you become more proficient and you're able to act in a strategic way, not in a tactical way. I look forward to working with you in developing your supply chain team. We want to work with you to make sure not only that you have the right team, but you have the right pieces in place. Again, for a copy of these slides and a few other bonuses, text the word TEAM, T-E-A-M, to 58885. That's TEAM to 58885. And not only will you get a copy of these slides, but you will also get a few other bonuses, which include that DISC personality assessment that I mentioned earlier, so that you can not only assess what your personality style is, but also what your teammates are, what their personality styles are, so you can effectively communicate more. Plus, I give you a free book of our best-selling book on Amazon, Supply Chain Analysis, which will give you all the 5 planning processes and the 7 steps to implementing metrics in your supply chain as well. So opt in. We look forward to working with you, and have a great Friday and a great weekend. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. As I mentioned before, make sure to get a few bonuses and the copy of these slides. Text the word TEAM, T-E-A-M, to 58885. 58885.